In this reflective and beautiful season of Advent, it is my delight to welcome you to the Laverne Church of the Brethren. We are a congregation that strives to bring the good news of healing and justice to a fractured world, and to live in such a way that peace and love can find their home among us all. This Wednesday evening, December 21st, our sanctuary choir is presenting The Light of Hope Returning, a folk oratorio written by our very talented music coordinator, Sean Kirshner. The concert will begin at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and will feature many excellent soloists as well as instrumentalists. If you are able, please do join us. Tickets are not required. However, a goodwill offering will be taken to help defray costs. It promises to be a lovely and moving way to celebrate the season together. If you are in the area, I also invite you to our evening Christmas Eve service. This special time of welcoming the Christ child begins at 9 p.m. and will include lots of music, prayer, reflection, and a time of candle lighting and singing on the patio. Christmas Day falls on a Sunday this year, and we will celebrate with a relaxed and joyous service of carol singing, readings, and a retelling of the Christmas story at our regular worship time of 9 a.m. Please do join us if you are able. And now, in a spirit of anticipation and expectation, I invite us to open our hearts to the love and care of God as we enter this time of music and reflection.
I'll be reading from two scriptures this morning. The first is Isaiah 35, verses 1 through 4. The wilderness and the dry land shall be glad. The desert shall rejoice and blossom. Like the crocus, it shall blossom abundantly and rejoice with joy and singing. The glory of Lebanon shall be given to it, the majesty of Carmel and Sharon. They shall see the glory of the Lord, the majesty of our God. Strengthen the weak hands and make firm the feeble knees. Say to those who are of a fearful heart, be strong, do not fear. Here is your God. He will come with vengeance, with terrible recompense. He will come and save you. And from James chapter 5, verses 7 through 10. Be patient, therefore, brothers and sisters, until the coming of the Lord. The farmer waits for the precious crop from the earth, being patient with it until it receives the early and the late rains. You also must be patient. Strengthen your hearts, for the coming of the Lord is near. Brothers and sisters, do not grumble against one another, so that you may not be judged. See, the judge is standing at the doors. As an example of suffering and patience, brothers and sisters, take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord.
Oh
You know, I am grateful to my mother for many things, but one that particularly stands out is her quiet attentiveness to beauty. Whenever we would go for walks or be driving in the car, she would often point out the scenery. Look at those clouds. See those flowers. What kind of an animal is that? When I think about it, these were not really overt educational moments. We were not expected to respond or even to look, although we often did. But rather, her comments were just expressions of her own internal world as she interacted with the landscape surrounding her. As kids, we would hang out of the car windows, the wind on our faces, our arms dangling, and take it all in. Some of you may remember those days of unrestrained freedom in the car when you would jump from the front seat to the back seat and hang out the window and sleep in the well in the back of the car. It was crazy unsafe, but it was sure a lot of fun. On any given day, I would often catch my mother peacefully gazing out of a window or stopping in her progress to look down at something. A small bud, a tiny creature, an interesting rock. She knew things from her evening walks, the return of migrating birds, the appearance of the first tomato, the height of the corn in the fields. Now, I have enjoyed travel and seen some truly grand sights that I relish. However, because of my mother, I realized that I have been shaped to find deep contentment in a quiet stroll around a familiar block. The hoot of the great horned owls that hover around our neighborhood generates a wild feeling of joy within me. The sound of hard soil crunching beneath my feet brings a satisfaction that feels pervasive and full. In literature, a perfect sentence can literally bring me to tears, and the dance of a delicate musical phrase offers a feeling of genuine delight. We were not an affluent family by any means, yet I feel as though my mother offered me a rich inheritance for which I am forever grateful. Look at this. Do you see it? The ancient hymn that the choir sang echoes the call. Lo, look, how a rose ere blooming from tender stem has sprung. Amid the cold of winter, against a harsh landscape, in the deepest, darkest of the night, a miraculous gift, a rose, a glimpse of beauty, an occasion of hope. In the book of Isaiah, the prophet begins by ruthlessly badgering Israel for its shortcomings and failures, blaming his people for their own oppression, their own enslavement and defeat. They have strayed, they have lost sight, they have been arrogant and sinful. God has moved against them. It is hard to know how much of this is true and how much is simply an attempt by the prophet to understand and make sense of a situation that makes no sense, an experience of deep injustice and pain. We can probably understand this impulse to explain something for which there may be no explanation. After all, life is often unfair and sometimes even cruel, especially for those with the least amount of power or influence. Many here have experienced this in a very real and challenging way: an illness, a loss, a disappointment, a tragedy, discrimination, distress, dismissal. Yet to these same confused and defeated people, Isaiah pivots and then gently issues a note of deep comfort, an assurance of God's love and presence. He promises them a different reality, a more beautiful existence, the coming of a Messiah who will lead with righteousness and peace. To a wounded and hurting people, Isaiah offers the coveted gift of hope and encouragement, of love and care. He helps them to imagine what they cannot yet see as they struggle in their world of fear and darkness. He says, the wilderness and the dry land shall be glad. The desert shall rejoice and blossom. Like the crocus, it shall blossom abundantly and rejoice with joy and singing. So strengthen the weak hands and make firm the feeble knees. Say to those who are of a fearful heart, be strong, do not fear. In the New Testament, to a struggling and sometimes persecuted young church, the ever-pragmatic James issues a similar call. Be patient, therefore, beloved, until the coming of the Lord. Strengthen your hearts, for the coming of the Lord is near. We sit this day in the season of Advent. It is a time of deep longing amidst a harsh winter. In the cold and in the darkness, we are called to be watchful, to pay attention, to look around, to notice, to imagine. In our restlessness and fear, we are asked to practice patience, not a patience of tacit resignation, but rather a mature and disciplined patience that carefully awaits a future that is not yet here, but is promised. Look, can you see it? Artist Andrew Wyeth says, I prefer winter, when you feel the bone structure of the landscape, the loneliness of it, the dead feeling of winter. Something waits beneath it. The whole story doesn't show. We feel the bone structure of this desolate wintertime that is Advent, and it can be lonely and hard. But then we remember, we know this story. There is something stirring beneath it all. The earth is beginning to turn, and something new, something beautiful, something salvific is struggling to emerge. Do you see it? Can you feel it? The signs are all around us. A young woman sings out, my soul magnifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God, my Savior, for God has looked with favor on the lowliness of this servant, and from this day forward, all generations will call me blessed. A young man makes a fateful decision about his future. Angels are appearing in the nighttime skies, bringing great news of joy for all people. A star shining bright is beckoning wise men. A beleaguered innkeeper is making space for a needy family. Movement is stirring from the east and from the lonely hills where shepherds keep watch. A tyrant is trembling as fear overtakes him. Look, look, can you see it? A tender rose is blooming in the cold of winter. Beauty, light, hope, joy, love, for you, for me, for us, for the world. Strengthen your hearts. Have patience. Do not fear. The coming of the Lord is near. Thanks be to God.
Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare Him room, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. Joy to the earth, the Savior reigns. Let all their songs employ. By fields and floods, rocks, hills and plains, repeat the sound, repeat the sound, rejoice, repeat the sound, rejoice, repeat the sound, rejoice. He rules the world with truth and grace, and makes the nations rule. The glories of His righteousness, and wonders of His love, and wonders of His love, and wonders of His love, and wonders